that seem pretty easy on the piano. But what happens there is, instead of just playing the C major scale, we're playing triads built off of each tone. And when you learn about this, then you've learned all the chords in the key of C. Really important stuff, because then if you're playing someone's song, you can communicate about how the changes are in terms of the chord progression, in terms of numbers. You know, playing the 1 chord is a C chord. Then guys will go into the 4 chord, which is an F chord. That stuff is super important to me. And then if I'm writing some music, now I know all the chords in a particular key that will fit well together. And of course you don't have to only follow those rules, but they're kind of a good place to start.
Well, now let's take a look at each one of these chords a little more closely, and we're going to see what each one is in the key of C. This first chord is C. Well, what emotion do you feel? It sounds happy to me, and the happy feeling chords are called major. Now that's just the emotional way to understand it, but if we really look at these tones and think about the spacing of the notes, we can learn the technical way to understand it. We begin with 2 whole steps, and then we end with a whole half, and that's the formula to make major chords. We have the first note of the scale, the 3rd note of the scale, and the 5th note of the scale. So that's C major, the 1 chord. Now how about this next chord? D. Well, this feels sad to me, and that's the minor sound, D minor. And now the technical way to understand it is that we, instead of beginning with 2 whole steps like major and ending with a whole half, they've flipped around, and now we begin with a whole half and end with 2 wholes. We speak about these tones as the 1, the first note of the scale. This is the flat 3, and then this is the 5. D minor, the 2 chord. Now this next chord, E. That feels sad to me, and the spacing looks so much like what I just saw with D minor. It's the same thing. This is E minor, the 3 chord. This next chord, F. That sounds major again, and the spacing of the notes looks just like what we found when we played the C chord, even though, you know, with the 3 to the 5, we have a half then a whole. In this new case, we have a whole then a half. It still sounds the same. F major, the 4 chord. This next chord is G, G major, the 5 chord. Then we have A. There's that sad sound again. That's A minor, the 6 chord. And then we end up at B. Well, that's really tense sounding. Oh man, it sounds, ugh. That's B diminished. That looks like minor to begin. I mean, it's got the whole and a half step to start, but it also ends with a whole and a half. So a diminished chord has the root, the flat 3rd, and also the flatted 5th. Creates so much tension. B diminished, the 7 chord. And then we begin all over again with C major.
So what I'm trying to get at is we want to memorize each one of these triads. What we could do is create acronyms for each one to remember them. Now, I was thinking to myself about the first triad, which is C, E, and G. And I thought, you know, I should make up an acronym to tell everybody and have you remember it, like carrots eat gorillas. And if I were you, I might not remember that. So I realized that the best way to create an acronym and remember it is if you yourself make it up. So for each one of these triads, I'd like you to make up the acronym, and I think you'll remember it a lot better. Well, my guitar lessons are normally only 30 minutes, so there's so much I want to talk about in that short period of time that I'm often just like fired up and trying to talk really fast and move forward quickly and share as much information as I can. I one time asked a student, I said, now what's a triad? And he said to me, it's a snowman. Now, foolishly, my first instinct was, come on, dude, it's not a snowman. I'm talking seriously. What is a triad? But check this out. It turns out it is a snowman.
So now let's look at these triads in sheet music. We see all the triads we spoke about and the names if they're major, minor, or diminished, and the function they are in terms of numbers in the key. So we use Roman numerals. The uppercase Roman numeral stands for major, lowercase Roman numeral is minor, and the lowercase Roman numeral with the degree sign is diminished. Another way to get to know these, besides maybe creating your own acronym for each triad, is to just kind of remember the tricks you use to learn the space notes and the line notes of music, because these triads are hidden within that. Now, if you look at the most classic one in the lower left-hand corner, talks about how the space notes are remembered by the word face. F-A-C, there's your F triad. We see A-C-E, there's your A minor triad. So that's one trick to get to know them.
I will tell you also that when I first learned about face and Every Good Boy Deserves Fudge was what I used for the lines, but I really like what they have here. I first of all was confused. I said, that doesn't make any sense to me at all. But then you notice that it's actually just a skip of letters in the musical scale, because in the lower right-hand corner, you could see on the red notes that I see F, A, C, E fits perfectly in the middle of E, G, B, D, F. Now, diatonic, according to the Harvard Dictionary of Music by Don Michael Randall, diatonic is a heptatonic scale with 7 different pitches that are adjacent to one another on the circle of fifths. Now, here's a picture of the circle of fifths, and we'll take a different video to talk about that in more depth, but on the top of it, you can see the pitches that we find in the C major scale, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. So it's a scale in which each letter name represents only a single pitch and is made up of whole and half steps, arranged in the pattern embodied in the white keys of the piano. Now, what does triad mean? A triad is a chord that consists of 3 pitches, the adjacent pitches being separated by a third. So you saw my hand on the piano skipping a key each time, and therefore I'm playing what you call stacking thirds. There are 4 types of triads. We have major, minor, diminished, and augmented. But it turns out we only have major, minor, and diminished in these diatonic triads in the key of C major. Now, what does major mean? The major scale, also known as Ionian, is a diatonic scale that begins on any pitch. We're going to begin on C, and then it goes whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. Then we stacked triads on top of each one of those notes, and it created all of these chords that are the diatonic triads in C major. Now, you need to realize that this is only in the key of C, but a lot of folks begin this way because it's very visually easy to understand on the piano. What you need to do next is apply this to all the keys and be able to play it in G, D flat, all 12 keys. It's really important to understand this stuff because now you can see all the chords that fit in any one particular key, and it will help you with your songwriting and with your analysis of other folks' music. To me, it's really just super, super important. And so let's get ready to take my quiz. Here's how it's going to go. What you're going to do is I'm going to speak a letter, and then you tell me back as quick as you can the triad, and then the type of chord it is, and then the number function it is in the key of C. So for example, if I say C, you would say C, E, G, and then you'd say major, and then you'd say it's the 1 chord. So, are you ready? What we're gonna have you do is, after I say my letter, I'm gonna want you to push the pause button on YouTube and make sure you're thinking about what the answer is and speaking it out loud and ensure that you're right. And then you could unpause, and I'll then tell you the answer. So we're going to go through all 7. I'll give them to you in a random order. Here we go. So the first one is F. Yes, the answer is F-A-C. Major, it's the 4 chord. Next one, A. A-C-E, minor, it's the 6 chord. How about C? C-E-G, major, it's the 1 chord. G. G-B-D, major, and it's the 5 chord. D. D-F-A, minor, and it's the 2 chord. B. B-D-F, diminished, and it's the 7 chord. E. E-G-B, minor, and it's the 3 chord. So much fun sharing this with everyone. When I first learned this, oh my, it just opened so many doors to me. Now I could understand the chords in different pieces of music and why they related together, and when the piece of music was going outside of the key, how to write better songs, like I said earlier. It's really a fun, important piece of information, so I want you to work at it. At your lesson, I'll give you this sheet, and I'll also give you the quiz again, maybe in a different order. And I want you to work hard at remembering it. Again, maybe create your own acronym that will help you remember each triad. ACE, acrobats, call, elephants. But again, it'd be better if you made up your own. So I want you to remember all these triads, and not only that, you should pick up your instrument now and play each chord from the key of C on your instrument. If you don't know the diminished chord, that's okay. That one is not quite used as commonly. So looking forward to seeing you at your lesson, and have a music-filled day.